I'm going to take another look at Bitcoin today. This monster rally from the September low to the high back in April has convinced many traders. Well, it's ingrained a bullish sentiment that's going to be really difficult to completely wash out. This was almost a 600% move in 7 months. That's the definition of parabolic. That's the definition of a bubble. At this point, anyway, pretty convinced that the bubble has popped, and I'm seeing that stubborn bullishness. A lot of traders have just, it's been ingrained in their brains that this is normal, and that they have to get back in quickly because there's going to be a repeat of this soon. And I suspect it's going to be the other way around. So I've marked what appears to be intermediate cycle lows in Bitcoin, and I will offer this caveat that I've not really studied the cycles in Bitcoin, so I'm not sure if it follows these cycles with a dependable duration, but at least over the last year or so, this appears to be holding pretty close. So here was the cycle coming out of the September low. This appears to be the intermediate cycle low, and then we've got another cycle that ran about 4 months. And this appears to be the intermediate cycle bottom here. So this is the intermediate uptrend line, and I've discussed this in some of my previous videos, that an intermediate cycle low, one of the requirements that needs to be met is that the intermediate cycle trend line should get broken, which it did. So that makes, or that convinces me anyway, that this is an intermediate cycle low. And so what has happened is this first daily cycle rally out of the intermediate cycle low has left translated and failed. So that implies that the entire intermediate cycle has left translated to an extreme degree. Let me show you another example of an intermediate cycle that left translated to an extreme degree. All right, this is gold in 2013. This was an intermediate cycle low. The rally topped kind of halfway. It wasn't really left translated. It wasn't really right translated. And the argument could be made that this was our intermediate cycle low right here. We have that kind of typical bloodbath phase crash at the end. And then we start a new intermediate cycle, but it just doesn't get any traction and tops very quickly. And then this is what follows, was that the beginning of that long bear market plunge. And you can see the next intermediate cycle low here in the end of June came at considerably lower levels after this intermediate cycle left translated severely. So going back to Bitcoin, and this is what makes me think this is happening, is at first I thought this was going to be a bloodbath phase right here when we broke this support, but it didn't really continue like a bloodbath phase would. Usually would get 5 to 7 days of just really extreme selling pressure that would scare everybody, and everybody finally panics out at the bottom, and that has not happened. Basically on day 2, the selling has ended, and now we're going sideways, allowing the moving averages, and I'll put the 50-day moving average in there. All right. Basically, I think this is probably a daily cycle low, and we're getting the bounce out of that daily cycle low, and price is churning sideways and giving this 50-day moving average some time to catch up to price. And I think we're probably at some point going to go above this and complete a swing. Right now, we need Bitcoin needs to go above 43. Let's just call it 43.4 in order to confirm a swing, and you need a swing in order to confirm the daily cycle low. So my guess is that we're going to chop around here and eventually get above this level right here. That's going to convince all the bulls that it's time to jump back on the bandwagon, and that we're going to get a repeat of this, and we're on our way to 100,000. And then what's going to happen is this daily cycle will left translate and go down and make another lower low. So the same thing's going to happen to this daily cycle as happened to this daily cycle. And many of you will remember I was warning people when they were trying to jump back into Bitcoin here during this bounce that ICL sell-offs, or if this is a bull market top, which I think it probably is, they almost always unfold at least as an ABC correction. So this was always going to be the B wave bounce followed by a C wave down. So all the people jumping back in right here, expecting a repeat of this and a move to 100,000, they got caught, and obviously a lot of them sold here, and this was a tag of the 200-day moving average. But considering how far price was stretched above the 200-day moving average, and let me put that in. All right. At the top here, I think this was about 150% or more above this 200-day moving average. That's a sign of a bubble. That's not a sign of a fundamental change or anything like that. And I think back here it was maybe even over 200% above the 200-day moving average. When price gets stretched that far above the long-term mean, regression almost always takes it very far in the other direction. So I doubt this is going to be done until Bitcoin drops. I think it's got to erase all of the parabolic move, which means at least a move back to 20,000. And I don't think I actually think it's likely that before this intermediate cycle is over, Bitcoin's probably going to test this ICL down here at about 10,000. So I would be very leery about holding long positions for any extended period of time. I think the bubble has popped. I'm pretty sure we've got a left translating intermediate cycle, which means that any bounce right here is going to just be temporary, and once RSI gets overbought, then price is going to roll over, and it's going to left translate this daily cycle just like it left translated this one, and Bitcoin's going to come down and make a lower low. And assuming that a normal duration intermediate cycle lasts maybe 4 to 5 months based on what looks like intermediate cycles here, then we're probably not going to get a final bottom to this intermediate cycle until August or September, and it should probably have a true bloodbath phase where you get that just all-out panic selling for 5 to 7 days, which did not materialize here, and that makes me think that's why I think that this is a left translating intermediate cycle and not a final intermediate bottom right here. So here's what you watch. During the declining phase of an intermediate cycle, price will not be able to hold overbought conditions and will roll over pretty quickly once RSI gets overbought. You can see this bounce right here. It couldn't even reach overbought. I suspect the same thing is going to happen here if this is a daily cycle low. We'll get a little bounce here, but once RSI gets up here to overbought, then it'll roll over and start down again. And if that's what happens, then that would be the confirmation that that this is a left translating intermediate cycle, and long positions should not be held for very long at all, and I would not expect a final bottom until August or September, and we're almost certainly going to wipe out all of the parabolic move, which means a move down to 20,000, and I suspect, based on how far price stretched above the 200-day moving average at the top, that it's going to have a equivalent or comparable move below the 200-day moving average before this decline is over, and it's going to take some time to play out. This is you're just not going to get a quick bottom and recovery after a move of this magnitude, 600% in 7 months. You're not going to wash that kind of bullishness out in just a couple of months.